Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to 40th episode of of Psychology Talks. And today we're going to discuss a very important topic, and that topic is very close to my heart. That is all about psychology. And that was the main reason that actually I created this platform, I created this podcast, and I write all my blogs and articles because I love to spread knowledge about psychology and its importance in daily life. So today we're going to discuss how and why it is important to understand the human psyche and how in every different field the study of psychology or the knowledge of psychology is important. And but before we start the show, I just want to remind you that my challenge about the book, uh, the algorithm of life, the book launch campaign, the challenge is going on, and tomorrow is the last day to participate in that challenge. So if you want to participate in the challenge, please do so, and tomorrow is the last day for that. Okay, so now moving on to our topic of the day, that the importance of understanding human psyche. And to discuss this topic, I have invited an expert psychologist, Silke. She is the founder of Brain Boss and an official member of Forbes Coaches Council. She has more than 20 years of practical experience as consultant in organizations, institutions in Europe, Africa, and Middle East. So let's welcome Silke. Hello, Silke.
Hello. Hello, good
Thank
evening.
you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much for joining us today. It's an honor to have you.
It's also an honor for me to be on your talk show, which then with the nice title Psychology Talk. So two
Yes.
psychologists are talking today.
Yes. And actually, I was so looking forward to this show because this is the first time I am having a guest, a psychologist, So it would be so much fun because you will be talking just like, the way we think and, the way, especially, I think your thinking, especially as far as I know, from your LinkedIn post, from your different videos, is so much aligned, and it would be so much fun.
Yes, I'm also really looking forward to our
Yeah,
talk today.
thank you. So, and thank you everyone who has joined us from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. Please share that where are you from, and if you have any question, please share in your chat, and we will answer you in the show during the show. So, before I actually move on to the discussion, tell us a little bit about yourself, that why you chose psychology, what was your struggles during the career, and how you cope up with that. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yes, and it's a psychology story on its own when I tell you how I came to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, after my A levels, we
Mhm.
got from the Ministry of Labor like a big, thick book with all
Mhm.
kinds of options what you can study. Now, I was very much interested in science, but I was also interested in social studies. And I couldn't find something to combine both of them. So I thought I'd become a teacher and then I choose a subject from science and from social studies. And then I don't know why, someone pinpointed me to a psychology, and also with the pre pre-story that I
Mhm.
could also go into economics because at that time it was very hit to
Yeah.
employ psychologists into organizations to do assessments, to do taking talents in, developing talents. These whole things of assessment centers, they came up during that time. And then I thought, wow, and I have science, social studies, economics in one thing. And that's the reason I started to study psychology, and I don't look back to that.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. And then, Like when I can so much relate to it, when I was actually doing the masters, and I was like, I had a choice and between, basically, because as you said, the economics was so much famous, and it's like it has its own demand of career in terms of career growth. So a lot of people actually suggested me to go for economics or MBA. So that's how they said that, they will be, I would have a better career growth. But I also chose psychology because it's so close to my heart. I feel that this is something that whenever I study human mind or human personality, I feel good about myself and about others. So that was something that, I feel that's the same as you said, that, you had the passion for going to the teaching or something, to understand human psyche, and especially the assessment. This is very, very interesting. I always find these assessments so interesting, because it used to fascinate me that, how one test can understand the personality of the other person. So
Yeah,
this was one of the major thing as well, to understand that how everything works. Yeah, yeah,
exactly. And as this science of psychology, what's behind it, it's actually the science of the human mind and behavior. And it
yeah,
has linkages to biology, they have
yeah.
linkages to neuroscience, to medicine. So it's something in the center, and it developed from philosophy, yeah, which
Yes,
also reflects
yes,
why we are here on Earth, what's our
absolutely.
purpose. And this really fascinated me, that you have all these overlaps with
Mm,
different disciplines. And
mm.
for me, the science aspect was, at that time when I studied psychology, nowadays you would say neuroscience. In our time, it was called biological psychology, where you
Yeah,
learn about the brain, how it functions, the neural synapses, and whatever. And
yes,
then you also look, like you have also these parallel studies of what's happening in the animal world. Yeah, and we are still
yes,
also animals, as we know, and
absolutely.
how are human animals behaving. So
Yeah,
it's really a fascinating subject to
yes, yes.
understand behavior and how we think and feel.
Yeah, and I would just add to it that, as you mentioned, that it is like, it is about understanding human, how they behave, and not only just keep on understanding that, human mind, how human mind work, as in like we use, you work, you study in biology or neurosciences or something. It is connected with several other fields, as you said, that philosophy, and like I would say that humans are the essential element everywhere in this, like whichever field you
Yeah,
go to, whether it is engineering, or it's astronaut, like go to the space, and any field you go, name it, because humans are there. So it is essential to understand human behavior in that field. So psychologists, I feel that they can fit in everywhere, because
yes,
human behavior applies everywhere and humans are there. So, and one thing and that is the one reason that, I even started this psychology talks platform and these podcasts, because I want to let people know that the understanding of psychology is not limited to mental health, or is not only limited to just treating disorder. In
yeah,
fact, it is very much necessary to understand the human mind, or understand psychology in every field, because to perform better, to be more productive, even in organize, I'm a psychologist, like industrial psychologist, like in my
yeah,
like this, and that's your specialization as well,
yeah.
so
It's
like,
also
how,
mine.
yeah, how humans work in the organization, and how their mind react to any situation, and how they behave, and how we can increase their productivity. So that's very, very interesting, that it
Yeah.
fits in every field.
Yeah, and if you look at like the basic courses in psychology, they were already divided. So you looked at the human being in its development. So it's a developmental psychology. They have even evolutionary psychology. Then there is
Yes.
social psychology, you as a human in interaction with others in a group. And then you have also like basic functions of psychology, like how we perceive our
Yes.
environment and how do we react to it. And then later, you can even differentiate what you said. We went into industrial psychology, there's educational psychology, clinical psychology, so many different adaptations of psychology. And what you said, it's always where the human, when a human person is on its own or in interaction with someone else, wherever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely did. Okay, so now moving on to the discussion, and let's see that people actually want to understand that how we can understand human psyche. So, okay, we have specialized in psychology, but those people who have not specialized in psychology, what tips would you give that how they can understand human psyche, how they can understand other human, and how they can develop more empathy? I would say that, especially because it is very important to understand others as a human being so they can react in a more better way. So what tips would you give?
Yeah, there are two, let's say there are two entry points. So
Okay.
one point is that you look at the behavior of someone. Yeah, that's very obvious. And behavior is measurable. So you
Yes.
measure outside behavior and you can measure it in a certain time.
Yes.
And then you can also go more inside and understand how people are thinking and feeling. That's now the cognitive side. And even in therapy, you have like a part that only looks for behavior things. And then you try to understand the behavior of a person and then help the person to adapt a certain behavior. And the other one is what you may think about cognitive therapy is to understand how a person thinks about it, what kind of pattern someone has. And you can access it by asking questions.
Yeah.
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 And let the person elaborate about something. Then there is also the entry point into personality of a person. And for this, you use psychometric tests,
Yes.
and they're often like you give certain adjectives to a person on a spectrum, and then people are supposed to say where they find themselves on this spectrum. And also with this, you find somehow like traits of a person, like what kind of adjectives they associate with, and which describe what are your values, what are your strengths. So you can assess it through psychometric tests. You can also make tests how someone is able to find patterns in
Yes.
something, if someone is able to think creative, if someone can focus on something. That's more the structure of the brain. And then you have the cognitive entry into the human psyche and the behavior side of the human psyche.
Yes, yes, that's very true. I mean, you defined it so beautifully that like there are two types of I mean, two parts of personality: behavior and cognitive. One is like very visible through the actions, the behavior, that how a person is behaving, and the other part is the cognitive one. And sometimes, especially like in the organization or in the normal daily interaction with the people, it's like when the dissonance happen between the cognitive side and the behavior side, people are thinking something else, they are motivated by something else, but they are doing something else. And
Yes.
that's how, and that's when the problem creates everywhere. Like if you be it in the personal life or the career or in the professional life, like I've seen that what happens is, like, people get stuck because when they think something else, but they do something else.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
how, you can see the people, like sometimes you see when they are saying something and doing something else.
Yeah.
So
And
that's one thing. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
yeah. And the thing in this is because our behaviors are already programmed. Yeah.
Yes.
Behavior is programmed over experiences. You learn something, you were in certain situations, and then a certain pattern of behavior is created. And if you repeat that several times, it's automatic.
Yes.
So now, out of sudden, you think differently, but maybe there is so far no behavior pattern to it.
Yes.
And then your brain says, okay, you want this on a conscious level, but we have currently no program to act on it. Therefore,
Yes.
let me just go into default and I do what I always did.
Yes.
And therefore, it's very important if you really want to do something, you have to learn a new motor program to that, a new behavior program to that. And what you also said is we often, what we also do, we see a behavior of a person and then we conclude out of that the
Yeah.
intention of the person. This person
Yes.
must have thought this, and this person
Absolutely.
must be like that. And then
Yes.
a behavior becomes a trait. So, like also with children, if they get like a burst or a tantrum or whatever, then we say, oh, this child is really angry. It's an angry child. Whereas
Yes.
it was just an episode, a situation, and the
Right.
child reacted to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we conclude, that's the trait of the child. It's always angry.
Yeah. Yeah. You actually pointed out so valid point, because that's the human psyche, that we actually start judging people, and that's an automatic, I would say, like unconscious way of
Yeah.
behaving towards other people. When some person say a single thing, we think, oh my god, that person must have acted because of the reason which is
Yeah.
our thinking, not that person's
Yes.
thinking, and that's how we judge others. And this helps also in one way, because we don't have to learn again and again, because something that we saw, we learn and put it in the subconscious, and that program runs on a automatic level. And that's how, like, we learn, let's say when we are driving a car, we learned it once, and then we just programmed our mind to do it automatically. And then whenever we see the car, when we sit in the car, we start driving. So
Yeah.
that helps us. But the thing is, the negative point is, then when we start judging other people on the same pattern, and that is when we need to think again, that are we judging people because of our previous learning? Is it our thinking, or the other person's really
Yeah.
doing that? So yeah.
Yeah. And you imply to someone their intention and you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
therefore in the workplace, it's quite crucial if you have like an interview with someone, that you assess that person on the behavior you have observed that are measurable, and
Yes.
not something you intuitively bring up, yeah, and conclude out
Yeah.
of certain behaviors.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why it is very important to actually take the human being in totality, not just base your view on the appearance, or on just one or two times of interaction. You need to take the view of the person in totality, like how the person behaves from that point to this point. And then the other thing is that one thing is very important, that whenever we actually respond to any other person, think before that, is our action because of our thinking, or because of the person has acted on that. So this is very important, that one needs to be constantly aware of all these psychodynamics, what's happening in the mind before reacting or responding. Because one more thing I would like to highlight here, because most of the time what people are do mistake is, when they feel angry, they don't think, they act. So at
Yes.
that point in time, we need to realize that we need to control these emotions. And emotions play again a very, very important role. We need to know that when are these emotions controlling us and when we need to control them. So
Yeah.
yeah, you can also share some light that, shed some light on that, for how emotions affect our behavior.
Yeah, it's as someone once said, there is a big difference between emotions and feelings.
Yes.
Emotions are actually sensations in your body. So your subconscious mind has somehow triggered a reaction in your body, a biological reaction in your body. Maybe your temperature rises, maybe you start sweating, maybe you feel your heart rate gets higher, or your pulse gets higher, or you out of sudden you make fists. And at that moment, it's just still the biology, the physiology of your body reacting to something that you're not always aware of at
Yeah.
that moment. And when we start to assess what's happening in our body, these body sensations, when we start to interpret them, then the feeling comes, and both
Yeah.
are in different areas of the brain. Like the assessment of sensations in the body is done in the insula,
Yes.
and therefore, what I always ask people in any sessions, what do you notice now? And it starts with, what are you sensing in your body? And then how would you label that? With what kind of feeling are you labeling it? Because this has consequences. When I'm excited and when I'm anxious, I have similar body reactions.
Yeah.
So my heart rate goes up. Yeah, I feel like my temperature maybe also rises. And then I can say I'm anxious. And when I say I'm anxious, I have more tendency to withdraw. When I say I'm excited, I'm still in for the run forward. And
Yeah.
it's the same activity level in the body. But with anxiety, it's already overboard and I have to protect myself. With when I say I'm excited, I'm still on a high run and I can perform actually quite well in that
Yeah.
moment. Yeah, and that's a difference. It really starts uh, how you label a certain emotions in your body, and are you aware to label them right? And this is a lot of people, they feel emotions in the brain. Yeah, they say, okay, I feel these sensations in my head, it's all in my head, and I feel like this. Yeah, interpretation comes in the head, but body sensations are actually in your body. And often
Yes.
it's the tummy area, chest
Yeah.
area, solar plexus. These are
Yeah.
areas where people feel the most, or normally feel a lot.
Yes, yes, that's a very important point actually, because interpreting it wrongly has very, very severe consequences. Because, and
Yeah,
that goes with the fear also, because sometimes we associate that feeling of fear with something which is actually non-threatening, and then this happens if we do that, we constantly restrict our way to move forward. So it's
yeah.
very important to know what's happening in our body and how to label that.
Yeah,
That's
and
very
if you express it, if you're able to express it, then you have access to another area of the brain that's more like logical,
yes,
analytic thinking. And this one is blocked if you're just overwhelmed by your emotions. Because
yeah,
at that time, there is not such a strong link from this area, which is called amygdala. When this one is running, you're
yeah,
like logical thinking is inhibited. And when
yes,
you're able to really express and label what's going on, then you are in control again. That's the
yeah.
most important part of it. And then you normally regulate back your emotional response to it.
Yeah, that's very true, very true. We actually, when we know that how the brain works, we can actually do, um, use it much effectively. And that's the reason why, that's why it is very important to study psychology, to understand human behavior, so we can behave in a much productive, more efficient, effective way. Okay, now one thing that I also want to ask, that a lot of people usually ask me, since I think you're a hypnotherapist also, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people get scared that hypnosis, how do can do this? They say that like they run a pendulum and the person go like crazy and they become a robot. So tell us a little bit about what is hypnosis and how can it be done?
Yeah, hypnosis is actually like a proven a therapy of it.
Yeah.
And what most people fear is the stage hypnosis, yeah, where people are presented, they are walking like chickens and they fall all apart. You have to know that people are being tested before. So the
Yeah.
hypnotherapist, he tests or she tests people before, and then some people are more accessible for hypnosis and others not.
Okay.
Because there are two things happening during hypnosis. You distract from the outside world. So there could be a fire happening in the background and you don't bother anymore. And for this, you have to regulate down a certain part of the brain. And then you have more this introception, and where you can control even certain aspects of your body. You can say, okay, my right hand is very relaxed now. My right hand is very relaxed. And you will see that your right hand sooner or later will be relaxed. So there are two things happening. First of all, you decide the outside world is not so important right now. Let me focus on myself, and that you can actually control certain parts of the brain. And a lot of people, I believe, have experienced that already in meditations, or they have done like progressive therapy where you actually tell your body, okay, relax this, like yoga nidra. Yeah, you
Yeah.
just tell a certain parts of your body you are relaxed now, and this is also part of hypnosis, what's happening in the brain. So not everybody, most people are eligible for hypnosis. Some
Yeah.
people are not, and you can test it by. I can demonstrate that it was done by Mr. Spiegel. He's even a professor of yeah, he's a professor in Stanford, and he
Okay.
studies even hypnotherapy. So he's a very well-known person. And his father developed this test. So you roll up your eyeballs. You don't bring up
Yeah,
your hand,
the chin or
only
your
your
eyes.
eyeballs, and you
Okay.
fix the point on the ceiling, and you really fix this point, and you breathe in, and then you close your eyelids and you breathe out. And when you start like vibrating here with your eyelids,
Mm-hmm.
they start vibrating, then
Okay.
you know you're quite eligible for hypnosis. Yeah,
Wow,
that's
that's amazing trick.
yeah, it's a trick. And then you can see, okay, can I go further with hypnosis? Will the person follow me, or do I have to do another intervention? And this
Okay.
is just to like switch the trigger that you are now ready to leave the outside, yeah,
Okay.
and concentrate more into an introspection.
Oh,
That's
okay.
behind it. And in hypnotherapy, there are certain inductions that people can actually go very, very deep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some people even use it for going to the dentist, that they don't even
Yeah.
feel any pains, but you have to be in a very relaxed state. How I work is more like you're daydreaming. Yeah, so
Okay.
you still hear everything, you can still open your eyes. Yeah, and in this kind of state, you have more access to your subconscious mind. And
Yeah.
the subconscious mind is creative thinking, thinking outside the box. It's getting access to your memories. And this
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that these memories are 100% how you experienced it.
Yeah.
They are already processed. Yeah, it's not the
Yes.
real reality how it was,
Yes.
but you get,
Absolutely.
yeah, you get still access how you felt, how did it make you feel, and what was really the trigger point. And yeah, you need access to this area of your brain. They call it also sometimes the default network, where you
Mm,
can really play around with associations. You have a more wider perspective that you won't have in a wake state, yeah, because you're a little bit more biased, yeah.
yeah.
But if you're in a relaxed state, you're more able to say, okay, let me see it from this perspective. Oh, I could have acted like this. Oh, it's actually also like this. And then you release also the emotional load of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I heard that it's more like it's used to treat trauma, because most of the time when people have gone through certain trauma, they are trying to uh, curb down their, like they need to they are suppressing their trauma because they don't want to bring those memories come back to the
Yeah,
consciousness. And that's when the problem comes in, that they feel extreme anxiety only because the memory is trying to gain access to the consciousness. And that's why I think this hypnosis part comes in, and you need to be, because what I have seen is, like, people need to be in a relaxed state to actually access those memories, because those memories or those trauma create severe tension in the body, in the
yeah,
mind, or like maybe anxiety or something. So this is very difficult, actually, since of course you're a trained hypnotherapist, so you know that, that state of the person is very, very vulnerable at that time. And it could happen, like that's why people even experience seizures and fits because of those memories and those things that, you know and even if it's sometimes, even I've seen that people even feel physical pain because of some past events or past memories. Like I have been, I was also talking to one of the other psychologists. She is the clinical psychologist, and she said that, like, one of the patient came to her, and she was having a neck problem, and she could not move to that side, to certain, like, I don't remember the left side or the right side, but she could not move to one
mhm,
side. And all the physical scans or all the physical reports were clear, and they said that still she feels so much pain and everything. And then when she started the therapy session, she found out that at one point in her childhood, she was embarrassed to, I mean, she fell at that in the play area or something, or in a park, where
mhm,
she felt so embarrassed, and at that time she hurt her neck, which was also not very
mhm.
severe, but that memory was stored in a way that was creating a pain for years and years, and she could not move that. So it's very important that, these type of memories, if stored in, like, unconscious mind, it does create physical pain as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And as someone said, when you have like a traumatic experience, normally like the nerve cells, they connect over synapses. And
Okay.
when you have a very traumatic event, they call it new receptors for these connections are even created. And they're only created for these traumatic events.
Oh,
And the only way to release these new built receptors is that you actually go back to the traumatic event. Otherwise,
yes.
you can never release it. And I'm
Yeah.
not dealing like with trauma patient because I'm not a clinical psychologist.
Mhm.
So people come with me, it's more issues of their leaders, it's
Mhm.
more issues of self-confidence, why they can't, why they don't feel really confident and can be more successful than they could be. And then we figure out what really hinders them. Yeah, what's the
Yeah.
blocking belief, what's the blocking emotion, and then we go back in time to figure out when this whole program was even created, and then heal it in a way that you reflect okay, the child or the teenager felt like this. And it's also okay because at that time you didn't have more resources. And then later, when it's healed, they go back to the same scene as an adult. And then the question is, how would you act now? And of course, they will have much better resources to deal with that past experience. And this also brings a new program and awareness. Okay, if I am now in such a similar situation, because the brain is very clever, it
Yes.
always looks, okay, this situation, though it happened 20 years ago, it
Yes.
feels similar. It somehow
Yes.
it feels similar. I get the same feeling like before. And then you act like the child of 20 years ago
Yes.
because you have not updated the program. So it's now important to bring you in as the 40-year-old or the 30-year-old and
Yeah.
say, okay, now you're 30 years old. How would you act now to change the whole scene
Yeah. Yeah.
forever?
Yeah, very, very important. Actually, these are the things that I would say that human beings are designed to actually react to certain stimulus or to the situation in a way that actually it builds a pattern. And when we see that our behavior is eventually all patterns, like we see
Yeah,
everything, every perspective in certain pattern. And we need to realize that what pattern are we following? Are we following the pattern that empower us or that blocks our way?
yeah,
So this is, I mean, I would say that psychology or the human mind, again, it's all
yeah,
patterns one by one. Like maybe it's stored either in the childhood or in our adulthood, and how we behaving it. So I think when we study psychology or when we study human psyche, it makes us realize, it gives us to actually power to think or to reflect on us, on our own behavior as well. Like keep on thinking that, okay, why are we doing this? Is it the right way? Is it because we are thinking that way, or is it because of our like default programming? So
yeah.
something of
And
this
then
way.
also to consider how you are being influenced. Yeah, of course, as a
Yes.
child, they say from the age 0 to 7, you're just a sponge and you absorb
Yes.
everything. You create your first values and behavior and beliefs. And later, like adults as we are also quite influenced by our peers, by society, by media, and to be really aware that you can be still brainwashed in a certain way.
Yes.
When a certain message always comes, then you start believing in it. And
Yeah.
it's very important to reflect if a certain belief, it's really your belief or a belief you have picked up from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you pointed out so well. I mean, it's so good point here. Socrates says that like, give me a child for 7 years, then I'll give you a man. So like till 7 years, there is no critical thinking. We're just
Yeah.
creating these patterns and patterns and patterns, and then the critical thinking starts after 7 years. And that's why you see that all children learn so fast, because they are not, their thinking is not restricted by critical thinking. They don't ask that why we need to think, why we need to learn. They are just learning as it's coming.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
one way, in a good thing, that we need to be open like a child to learn more ways, more things. Yeah,
Yes. And
that's
of course, in our brain, when you're still growing, your brain grows and then has all this capacity to form these neural networks, and it goes very fast. If you're
yes,
already an adult, a lot of these connections are already formed. Yeah, you have all
yes,
these gray and white areas in your brain. And it's harder when you're an adult to change
yeah,
certain patterns there. So it's not impossible. It takes more effort. It takes
yeah.
more effort to change and relearn and learn something new.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
of the blockade. Yeah, because it's already full. Your brain is
Yeah.
already full.
Yeah, so we're actually now reaching to an end of the show, and before we close the show, what's one advice would you give to our audience today?
Yeah, what I always like to guide is it's never too late to relearn and to find out where really your passion lies. These years of the pandemic has really woken up a lot of people to really redefine their lives, where they want to be, and to really consider where are your talents, what are your strengths. It's not necessary that you have to bring them all into the workplace or in your career. There's ample of time where you can also play your talents and strengths in your community, as a hobby, with your family. But it's very essential that you really live these strengths of yours. And then also consider what kind of impact you can create for others.
Yeah,
Yeah, then it's not only you and your self actualization, it's also thinking about the environment, the community around you, and this will also bring you much more joy. Yeah,
yeah,
after you have really settled on your basic needs, that you have a roof under your head or above your head, that you have a certain income, that your family is safe, you can do things parallel. I said you don't need to say, okay, but the job I have right now, it's not really according to my strength. Yeah, it's okay. You need the job to get your income, but try to live it in at home in your free time. Yeah, to really get fulfillment in your life and see how your behavior affects others. Yeah,
yeah,
because we are social beings. And if you're more aware about yourself, then also consider how your behavior affects others.
yeah, yeah. That's a very very good advice, and thank you for being here and sharing a lot of valuable discussion and a lot of valuable insights today. I'm sure our audience have learned a lot from you today. So just tell our audience that how they can reach out to you. This is one I know uh, your website, right? This is the right one.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
they can.
it
Yeah,
is.
so they can.
Yes.
Like if anyone wants to check out her work, they want to contact, they can click on this website and they can contact through this website. She's also very active on LinkedIn, so you can DM her, you can chat with her through LinkedIn and any other way, like you maybe any other social media you're using, so they can contact you there.
Yeah, it's for now. I will shift with the brain boss method also on Instagram, but this will
Okay.
come next month. Yeah, the
Okay.
best sources are LinkedIn and the website Brain Boss Method. And I really wish you that you got some insights from this talk, because in the end, it's for you, it's not for us.
Yeah.
And if some questions are coming up, reach out to
Yeah.
Ambreen to ask, and then she can also contact me.
Yeah, definitely. You can reach out to any of us, to me, uh, or to Silke. So, and we'll be happy to help you out. And meanwhile, if you want to participate in the challenge, please do so. Tomorrow is the last day. So, if you want to register, please do it on the psychologytalks.com. So you'll get the updates about the book, about the other events, and you'll stay updated. So thank you so
And
much, everyone. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
and really, I believe Ambreen's book is something very, very deep and really helpful. And please get it as soon as it gets on the shelves or on Amazon, because it's really something that was in a pipeline for so many years, and
Yeah.
it has really grown and ripe to something very, very beautiful. Please. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your kind words. It really means a lot. Thank you so much for everyone to join, and most of all, thank you, Silke. It was an honor to have you. Thank you.
And it was an honor for me to be here and to be in front of you guys and your listeners. Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you, and goodbye.